How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. You'll have to excuse me. I legitimately just got home from a workout, got out of the shower, and luckily I have this stylish towel turban, but
I love it. I love it.
yeah, I'm so
Showing
happy
up.
to be here with you.
I love it. Yes. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited for this conversation. And I get to see your face twice this week, which I'm very happy about. Awesome. Well, let's dive in and share. I just want to share quickly. So for people, anybody who doesn't know, Ava is a breathwork and meditation teacher. Ava is also my coach. So we are working together over the next 6 months. Super excited about this. And I obviously did your program Academy of Breath earlier on this year. So here today we're talking about breathwork and meditation. And so to start off, I would love to know, I was thinking this morning about breathwork and meditation and my journey with it and where I actually began with it. And I thought it was last year, but when I reflect back, I actually remember a time in my life where I really needed it and I'm going to share a little bit. Actually, I'll share about it now, but essentially I first got into breathwork or first experienced breathwork and meditation about 6 years ago when I was going through a relationship, basically heartbreak time. And I used it as a coping mechanism. And it was so transformational in that time. And later on in this conversation, I want to talk about how we can use it to kind of take us to that next level. But I would love to hear from you. What was your first experience? Like, how did you get into it? And what was that first experience that you had with breathwork and meditation?
Yeah, not that I love that you had to go through a painful breakup, but I love that you relied on breathwork and meditation to help you cope, because they really are such powerful practices to regulate our emotions, you know? For me, I had been practicing yoga for a while. I had done a couple different breathwork practices inside of the yoga studio, but it wasn't until I actually did my yoga teacher training that I learned about different practices of breathwork and meditation styles. And that was, for me, kind of like that next spiritual high that I was searching for after having practiced yoga for a while and kind of feeling like I was plateauing in what I was opening up within myself, within my physical practice. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time that I practiced breath work, it was Wim Hof actually, which isn't what I teach, but is a practice that I do love, feeling absolutely elated and just this overwhelming feeling of love and just sensations throughout my body that I felt so deeply connected to. And it was kind of within that moment that I knew this is a practice. I remember talking to my friend and calling her after my yoga teacher training, and I was just on cloud 9, and she was I can hear it in your voice, you are almost high right now. And I was it's amazing. And so from that point forward, I started exploring different practices, different meditation styles, and over the years, through different teacher trainings and through my own personal practice, found the practices that I resonate with most, and now, of course, created the Academy of Breath last year. So yeah, that's kind of my first kind of introduction to breath work.
I love that. Yeah, it's super cool. And it was interesting for me as well, having that first experience 6 years ago, using it to literally just cope and get through each day, cope with my emotions and really deal with those, which it was so transformational for me during that time. And then a year ago, when I hired my first coach, she led me through breath work, and exactly what you described. I finished the breath work and I went out and I felt high, and my partner Jay was like, "What did you do?" He's like, "What's actually wrong with you?" I was like, I feel so good. And it was the first time that I'd experienced that real high sensation from myself and from my breath. And it's so cool. So I'd love for you to share how you mentioned using it, you can use it to regulate our emotions, but on the other hand, and this is something that I only discovered this year and then started a consistent practice after going through Academy of Breath with you, but how can people use breath work to kind of take them to that next level and to tap into creativity and what's alive inside of us?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So, the thing is, most of us are operating from a place of stress throughout our lives. And when we're in that stress response, the only thing that our brain is focusing on is survival. Like it's actually like the prefrontal cortex starts to shut down in the brain when we're exposed to too much stress. And in that really reactive state. And so when we talk about, creativity and inspiration and intuition and like the process of growth, whether it be spiritual growth, physical growth, emotional growth, or mental growth, happens when we are out of that stress response. And so there's a couple different pieces that come together, I think, depending on the breathwork practices that you do. But one of the things that I love about the more gentle practices is that it really allows us to move from that state of stress into, as one of my favorite meditation teachers, Emily Stella Fletcher says, stay and play, or for most of us, we know it as rest and digest, that parasympathetic response. And even though that sounds a little like sciencey and more on the, I would say, like logical side, and we don't necessarily pair creativity with logic, but what happens when we do this is that we allow ourselves to open up the part of our brain that is creative, the part of our brain that is open and able to see opportunities in front of us, the part of ourselves that is willing to take risks and not just looking at survival, or how to survive. And so breathwork itself and meditation as well, when we pair the two together, not only are we physiologically allowing the parts of our brain that are creative to open up, but in addition to that, through a consistent practice, depending on how you're using it, and I teach many different styles within the Academy of Breath, as you know, but depending on how you're using it, it can be this tool of connection to a higher power, to your intuition, to God, whatever it is that you believe in. And it really is so beautiful, because for me, this has been the practice from the very beginning that has breathwork and meditation, that has been the practice from the very beginning that I've used in every single area of my life for that growth.
I love that. It's so powerful. And that's something that I didn't realize. Like, I really didn't realize that through breathwork, we were able to like tap in to ourselves, to our creativity. And through doing breath work, that actually allowed me to experience meditation on a level that I'd never experienced before. So like I said, I'd done it before, but then I went through this phase of being like, oh, meditation's kind of boring for me, because I was in this phase of my life where I was working so much, like hustling. My mind was constantly racing. So it was literally impossible for me to actually meditate, because I was at this crazy pace. And then going on this embodiment journey that I'm on and discovering embodiment. And then I was like, oh, breath is one of the best, or the best embodiment tools and practices that there is to get into the body. So I'd love to hear, like, what are pairing those breathwork and meditation as just like, it's just such a good, juicy combination. So what are some like benefits or some changes that you have seen in yourself through pairing the two and doing consistent practice, and then you see in your clients as well?
Yeah, so, very similarly to you, when I first found meditation, before I started pairing the two together, because I initially had found like both separately, and then I was like, wait a second, what happens if we put them together? But it was really hard for me to meditate. I remember telling myself, well, maybe I'm not someone that needs meditation. Like, maybe I'm a person that just doesn't need to meditate, which I laugh at now, because I really believe that, as my teacher, Johnny Pollard, has said frequently, people are going to look back 100 years from now and look at meditation as in the same way that we look at people 100 years prior that didn't brush their teeth, where it's like, wait, they didn't meditate? What? Like, it's that mental hygiene, right? And so I laugh at my younger self who thought that she didn't need meditation, but really it was because I had so much stress, so much anxiety in my life, that sitting still really just perpetuated the anxiety and the stress. And, I think that that's something that's really common, and something that a lot of meditation teachers also don't talk about. And is that meditation can often make things worse if you do not have a practice of bringing safety into your body, and you've experienced a lot of a lack of safety in your life, or a lot of anxiety or panic attacks, or depression or PTSD. And so for me, pairing the two practices together really allowed me to create that safety in my body, so that by the time I was actually just settling my breath into its natural rhythm and meditating or praying or whatever it might be for that practice, I was actually able to drop in a lot faster. And I see that across the board in every single person who goes through the Academy of Breath. It is synonymous that when we pair breathwork and meditation together, what we're doing is really preparing the body to be able to slow down and soften and relax enough, so that when we're in our meditation practice, we're actually able to tap into that divine state, or that manifestation state, or that visualization so much faster. And so that's definitely been one of the biggest things for me. Last year, when I was launching the Academy of Breath for the second round, I started asking myself, like, what was that journey for me with meditation? And really trying to think of all of the things that happened in my life as I started bringing breathwork and meditation practice in. And, first, it really was the more physical things. And I see this with a lot of people that go through AOB, is that it's better sleep, it's less anxiety, it's before you're falling asleep, your mind's not racing as much, it's more energy throughout your day. Meditation itself is 20 times more restful than sleep itself. If we do a 20-minute meditation versus hitting snooze for 20 minutes, you're going to get more rejuvenation and more rest from the meditation. And so for someone's question of, do you do breath work prior to meditation? Yes, exactly. You can do it on the other side if you meditate and then breathe. But I always find that when you do breath work and then meditation, it makes the meditation just a lot more juicy, and it's a lot easier to drop into the practice and not have those racing thoughts. So yeah, a lot of the physical things start happening first, and that's because, well, not because of the research, but we've done a lot of research that within as short of like 8 weeks of a 10-minute daily practice, the corpus callosum, which is the basically like the link between the right and left hemisphere of the brain, grows stronger, and so greater communication in your brain. A lot of different things neurologically and physiologically happen within the beginning of a breathwork and meditation practice. And so physiologically, that in the beginning of your practice, you see a lot happening. And then I really believe that after, an 8 or 10 week consistent practice, you start to see a lot more of the spiritual benefits. A lot of the things that we talk about around like being able to hear your intuition. For me, it's like conversations with God. Being able to visualize and embody and manifest, like those are the pieces that start to come into place the more consistently you get into your practice. And I think that a piece of that is that you've created enough of a deregulation in your nervous system, so that you actually are more open to what we were talking about beforehand, the growth and the opportunity and the awareness and the ability to like dream bigger and take risks. And so I think I've been talking a lot, so I want to pause for a second just in case anyone has any questions or you have a question.
I'm trying to scribble notes quickly so I don't forget, because there's so many points that was just gold. But one thing I want to say is, the breath work before meditation, for me, it skips out the boring part of meditation. It allows you to just go quicker, because usually I would find, like, if I'm doing a meditation, the first 5 minutes, I'm quite in my head, I'm bored, I'm thinking about other things, and it takes me a while to get into it. Whereas breath work, you're going into the body, you're kind of bringing that awareness and the safety into the body. And then with the meditation, it's just like, whoop, like you're going deep, you're going right down there, which is really, really powerful. And especially now for me, like building a business, it's transformational to be able to tap into my body and get really, really deep. And the clarity that comes, like the creativity, most of my content comes from my breathwork and meditation sessions, because I'm tapping into just this beautiful creativity and like power that's within me. And it makes everything flow. So coupling that, oh, Maclovia, hi. Love you. Maclovia and I did the breathwork together, Academy of Breath together. But yeah, coupling those two together is so powerful. And I actually don't know if I would be able to be in business had I not discovered breathwork and meditation, because I don't think I would have the confidence in myself. Before I was like outsourcing, like looking for inspiration from other people and looking externally for things to kind of help me with ideas. And now through a breathwork and meditation practice, I find I'm like, I got all the answers within. I just have to like quieten down and tap in through a breathwork and meditation practice. And it's so powerful. So, so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I have to echo that because that's been the same for me as well too. I think the confidence piece is another piece that you wouldn't necessarily assume would come from practicing breathwork and meditation, but I think a part of it is feeling so landed in your body, right? Like we're not searching outside of ourselves. We're not anxiously trying to figure out what's happening. It's like this really peaceful feeling of being landed in your body, and also taking the time to seek within you versus seek outside of yourself. And so I find that, and I was having a conversation actually with another one-on-one client earlier today about this same thing around when we seek first within ourselves, which for me, I believe is seeking, through the intuition, through the universe, through God, whatever word you want to use for that higher power. When we seek first there and honor what we receive, we will always be met with confidence, versus when we seek outside of ourselves to what others are doing or how others are showing up or the choices others make, we can often lack confidence or experience self-doubt. And so every single time that I come back to this practice, I am reminded of my power, and I'm reminded of who I am. And it just roots me and like anchors me in a way that no other practice has been able to.
Yeah. Echo that 100%. And as well, for me, I found, like you said, I found this really deep confidence and really allowed me to get this like deep embodied self-love from within. And I had no idea that that was going to come from embodiment work, from breath work. So it's really, really powerful. I love everything about it. And just to somebody who said, is this going to be saved? Yes, it's going to be on, it'll be on as an IGTV on my page. And then the other question, how long is a typical breathwork session? What would you say to that, Ava?
Yes. Okay. So this is one of the things that I love about the breathwork practices that I teach, because there's a lot of different breathwork styles. And so within the Academy of Breath, I teach 9 different types of breathwork styles, and then we do 3 different styles of meditation. And the cool thing about all of these practices, and the way that I teach it, is based out of not only the spiritual origin of these practices, but also the research-backed the research-backed science of these practices as well. And so the cool thing about the practices that you learn inside of AOB and the practices that I teach specifically is that you really don't need to sit for a long period of time. At a minimum, usually 5 minutes is enough for your brain to start making the shifts that we've talked about throughout our time together today. And outside of that, usually my practice is anywhere, depending on the day, is anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, including breathwork and meditation. Now, of course, you can do a longer practice depending on how much space you have in your day. But I think that there's a big misconception that in order for you to be like truly meditating or truly breathing, you have to do like an hour-long practice and, carve out a big part of your day in order to see the benefits. And it's simply not true. Like, we have research to prove that it can take as little as 5 minutes. And I think that that makes it really accessible to a lot of people that have been intimidated by the practice.
I love that. And that was my experience too. When I did AOB in February, I started with a 5-minute practice every day. And that was equal ratio breathing that I was doing 5 minutes. And then I went up to 10 minutes. But for a while, for a couple of months there, it was purely 5 to 10 minutes a day. And it was the consistency for me that was the most important, which I think is just doing it regularly. But literally even 5 minutes a day, you feel a difference. And now I try and do 20 minutes a day, But some days I'll be like, I don't have 20 minutes. I'm just going to do 5 minutes. And that's enough for me to still like get into my body and really feel the benefits and like feel the peace and calm that I usually experience from breath work. And Maclovia asked, what's your favorite breathwork technique for help with anxiety?
Maclovia, you know this. So, you know, right now I have been dealing with a couple different health issues around my adrenals and just having higher levels of stress. For anyone here that follows me, you guys all know that I've been in the process of moving for the past like 3 months. We're finally settled into our house, but obviously big life changes like that create anxiety and create stress, and it's chaos in life. And so for me, I've really been working on only doing practices that soothe anxiety and soothe stress. And so 2 practices. One would be equal ratio breathing, which is the inhale for 5, hold at the top for 5, exhale for 5, hold at the bottom for 5. Now, if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety in the moment and you're doing that practice versus kind of just using it as like a day-to-day consistent like upkeep, what I suggest is focusing on a part of your body that isn't experiencing the anxiety response. So often when we are experiencing anxiety, our heart starts pounding faster, our belly starts contracting in, it feels like it's knotting up. And so when I'm doing a practice like equal ratio breathing and I'm experiencing anxiety, I'm going to be breathing in and doing the breathwork practice. So again, inhale, hold at the top, exhale, hold at the bottom, depending on the count. Usually I do a 4 or 5 count. And I'm going to focus on like the top of my head, a place where my little towel turban's a little high right now. But I'm going to focus on like the crown of my head versus focusing on, oh my gosh, my heart is beating so fast, or oh, I feel so uncomfortable in my tummy. And so what that does is brings my attention off of the anxiety. And then outside of that, I know that because I'm doing this breathwork practice, physiologically, I know that my body, my nervous system is moving from that stress response. And so because I have the awareness that I know it only takes 5 minutes for me to get there and that I'm not even focusing on it anymore, at this point in my practice, I can do that and it can take me 5 minutes to get out of that anxiety response. Now, of course, you know, if you're just starting out, if you have a lot of anxiety, it might take longer. It might be harder for you to not focus on the feeling of your heart beating or the discomfort within your belly. But the thing that I always just remind myself, even if I am getting distracted by my heartbeat, is I just remind myself over and over in my head, like, I know that I'm calming down. I know that I'm calming down. I know that I'm calming down, because we know through so much research that you are actually doing a practice using your breath to calm your body down. So that's definitely one of my favorite practices. The other one would be Brahmari. And Brahmari, I won't go into the practice today, but essentially what you're doing is humming. And because when you hum, what you're doing is vibrating your vocal cords. Your vagus nerve has little receptors that are basically like vines, or what's the word that I'm trying to think of? Like a plant's, oh my gosh. I'm like totally blanking right now, but it's basically like vines. They're receptors from the vocal cords onto the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is responsible for, when you activate your vagus nerve, you are activating your parasympathetic response. And so through the act of humming, it vibrates your vocal cords, it activates the vagus nerve, and then that activates your parasympathetic response.
Yeah, I love that. That is one of my favorite practices. That was one of the favorite ones I learned through the Academy of Breath. And I love to do that most days. It's the most calming, beautiful, just like meditative kind of breathwork practice.
Yeah.
It's literally one of my favorites. And
yeah, me too.
To second what Maclovia says, she said, I love hearing you deep dive into the nitty gritty. Me too. I love hearing you talk about it all day. So thanks for asking that question, Maclovia. Somebody said, I experienced my hands and fingers cramping during a breathwork session. Is this common?
Yes, yeah, it is common. Not with the breathwork practices that I teach, but if you're doing 2-part breath, then yes.
Love that. Super normal. I actually kind of like the tinglies, and when my body responds in that way, I find it kind of enjoyable. But actually, I was going to ask this question. What's something, actually, first of all, when I was doing breath work I think it was a few months ago, I got to this state where I was so in my body, and I felt like I could actually feel my heart pumping the blood through my body, and I could feel like my ribs really expanding as I was breathing. Like, it was this really cool sensation of, I was so in there. It was like I was in my chest and could like feel all of these things happening. And it was this really crazy, cool experience. And I was like, oh my God, my body is so cool. This is such a crazy, crazy experience, because my awareness was like right in there. So is there, oh, someone said, oh my God, that happened to me on Monday. So cool. Like, literally, it's so freaking cool. So is there an experience or something that you've, like, what's your favorite thing that you've experienced through breath? Like something kind of weird and cool like that you've not felt before?
So for me, I'm so visual that when I do a breathwork practice and meditation practice, usually it's like a visual experience where it's almost like a psychedelic experience, or it is. And I will say that, you know, not every practice is the same. Like, every single practice is different. And so in the beginning, I would definitely chase to like try and recreate the psychedelic experiences that I would have. And I remember my teacher telling me, like, remember, like, there's no good or bad meditation, just gratifying or ungratifying meditations. No two meditations are the same, but they're all doing it. And so I share that just in case anybody's like wanting to recreate a meditation that they've had and having trouble or getting frustrated. But yeah, I've had insane psychedelic experiences where I've literally like felt like my body almost like jumping off of the floor. Not in the practices that I teach in like 2-part or transformational breath. Those experiences happen to me a lot more often, where I'm like almost leaving my body. I think that can be kind of intense to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But I think what happened in those practices is that it really opened up a part of me that was able to see more clearly, so that in my like daily meditation and breathwork practices, I am really able to see into my future, like my desires, visualize it, feel into it, like tap into that elevated emotional state, and I guess play in the quantum field.
Love that.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, the crazy experiences are always amazing, and it's like, I want to go back to that. But yeah, I find sometimes I'll set an intention, but other times I'm like, I'm just doing it to do it. And sometimes it's those times where I have no expectations whatsoever,
Yeah.
where I'll have the coolest, craziest, or like creative experience.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. And that just reminded me of something that you talked about in Academy of Breath, which really was like on point for me. That I think you said, I'm not sure if you learned this from someone else, but you said, we don't do it for the eyes closed experience, we're doing it for the eyes open experience, which I love.
Yes, yeah, that's from my teacher, Johnny Pollard, as well. I learned meditation. I learned how to teach meditation through Johnny Pollard. He's the founder of One Giant Mind, and he's absolutely amazing. I mean, he was the person that really got me into meditating every single day. But it's so true, you know, the practice itself is beautiful. The 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long you sit in meditation is beautiful, right? But ultimately, the benefits of the practice, the power of the practice, what we receive from the practice isn't just within those 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. It's then how we show up through the rest of our life and our relationships, and how we see and speak to ourselves, and how we interact with the world around us. And so I think that, you know, a lot of people get caught up in, oh, I had a bad meditation, or I'm not good at meditating. And I would just say stick with it, because ultimately the tiny time that you're carving out of your day to meditate is just one piece of why we actually are meditating.
Yeah. That was such a powerful realization for me, that it's not all about, even if I don't feel anything during that 10 minutes or 20 minutes, the effects that it has on my life and my day to day. Like, I do feel a massive difference throughout my day if I've not done a breathwork and meditation practice. So that was helpful to me, to not be like attached to that short period of time where I'm doing the practice, and just know it's like an act of like deep self-care, really embodied deep self-love.
Exactly. Like I said earlier, it's that mental hygiene, right? We brush our teeth every day. We brush our teeth every day. We take a shower every day for the most part. We'll, move our bodies. We eat good food. Why would we not be taking care of our minds? It's just like, again, for me, it's a no-brainer. And I actually read a stat the other day I shared yesterday at another live that I did, but only 20% of Americans have actually tried meditation before. And so I'm just like, we have so many people that we need to expose to this practice. It's time to get to work.
Yes. And that's why we're here. That is why we're here. So I wanted to talk about Academy of Breath. I know you have another round starting soon in July, and I'm so grateful for finding Academy of Breath and going through the program with you. It really, for me, it was the thing that I needed to really help me consistently create a beautiful breathwork and meditation daily practice. And I really do credit that for the immense growth I've experienced over the last few months and how I'm feeling overall, because I really don't think I would be where I am today if I'm not hadn't found Academy of Breath. And I love within it as well that you, like you said, you mix that spirituality with the science. I find that so interesting, because for me, like, just science, I would have been a bit turned off. Like, I can't remember all of the different things. I know the basics, but I love how you bring in that spiritual element. I think it's so important as well. So tell us a little bit about Academy of Breath that's coming up. I'm super excited.
Yes, I'm so excited as well. And it makes me so happy to hear that it was a really integral part of your journey and where you're at today. Because, that was part of why I created it, not only for more meditation and breathwork teachers to be in this planet, or on this planet and in this world, but also for you to have a practice to be able to connect to yourself and, be able to extract the nectar of life as best as you can from every given moment through these practices. And so, the Academy of Breath is an 8-week meditation and breathwork teacher training. We meet every single week over the course of 8 weeks as a group live. You learn 9 different styles of breathwork, 3 different styles of meditation, and are paired up in small groups, as well as get access to pre-recorded master classes that really allow you to tap into different elements and usages of breathwork and meditation. Everything from awakening the intuition to developing your voice as a leader to using bandhas in your practice, which are energy locks to help move energy. And then in addition to the pre-recorded master classes, I'm really excited because we're getting guest teachers involved this year, or this round, with past Academy of Breath alumni to be able to teach master classes in the realm of their expertise and how they use breathwork and meditation. And that's really exciting for me, because from the very beginning, I knew that I wanted this to be like a community. I wanted this to be a movement of all of us coming together and being able to showcase our practice, showcase our expertise, and really stand together at bringing breathwork and meditation into the world, versus feeling like it's just me teaching. So I'm really excited to be getting everybody involved this round. And we start on July 28th. Right now we have the waitlist open, and if you sign up for the waitlist, you get $500 off. And we're gonna open up waitlist, like exclusive pre-sale, next week, at the end of next week. And so if anyone's interested in joining us for this next round, definitely sign up for the wait list. And even if you can't make it this round, I would highly suggest getting on the wait list, because we are going to be raising the price after this next round. And if you get on the wait list, you always will get the lowest pricing. So I'm excited. This is the fourth round that we're doing it. We've certified over 200 teachers now over the course of this past year. Yeah, so it's a movement. It's turning into everything that I saw and kind of was told it would. I remember the first time that I meditated and had a vision of what AOB was going to look like. I got like full on like almost like Coachella main stage vibes of getting breathwork and meditation out to that many people, like hundreds of thousands of people. And so if you guys are interested in being a part of this movement with myself, with Steph, with all of the other amazing individuals that have gone through these doors, it really is a family, and we would love to invite you into that family.
Second, that definitely is a family, and I love the community element of it. And you're just such an amazing teacher and embodiment, like a true embodiment of your work and of how you share. And it's such a vibe being in your space. That was honestly what really drew me into the program as well. And so I just also wanted to share, I have one more question, but I wanted to share that if anybody, I have a link in my bio as well to sign up to AOB. And if anybody does sign up through me, then you will also get a bonus, which will be a free 1 hour feminine embodiment coaching session with me, which game changing.
That's amazing.
So if anybody signs up through that link, then send me a message and you can book in your free 1 hour coaching call with me, which is really going to really just help anchor like getting into the body and really experiencing the embodiment piece as well. So last question is, who do you say AOB is for? Is it for people who specifically want to teach breathwork, or who's the perfect person to join AOB?
Yeah, great question. So the Academy of Breath ultimately is for anybody who's ready to deepen their meditation and breathwork practice. We've had people come in that were like, I don't even think I want to teach. And I'm like, perfect. You're just going to learn a lot about breathwork and meditation to the point that you are going to be so convinced and committed to your practice. And then outside of that, you know, a lot of coaches, a lot of healers, a lot of teachers go through these doors. Yoga teachers, we are recognized by the International Breathwork Foundation as well as Yoga Alliance. And so if you teach yoga and need continuing education credits, you will also get continuing education credits through the Academy of Breath. But I think anybody that wants to bring practices of mindfulness, of connection, you know, if you're a health coach and are wanting to work with your clients again on all these things that we've been talking about around regulating stress, because stress has to do with immune system, gut health, all of the different things. And so it really is a all-encompassing comprehensive certification program that will equip you, kind of like we've talked about, with the science and background, the spiritual background, as well as the tools to develop your own unique voice. So you're not just regurgitating the way that I teach, but teaching in your own voice and really feeling confident sharing that voice with the world. And then in addition to that, one piece that we didn't mention is that for those of you that do want to become teachers, we have 2 bonus weeks that are all around business development, creating programs and offers and services, pricing yourself, how to show up online, how to develop you know, a social media community. And so not only do we teach you how to be a teacher and how to develop your voice, but we also set you up with the tools to be able to actually create a successful business out of it as well.
So juicy, so powerful. And I love that, because I joined initially so that I could do this work with my clients as an embodiment coach. But first and foremost, like for me personally, it was so transformational. And even if I was going in just for that piece, it's so worth the investment and worth the time. Just learning and being able to kind of bring that into my own daily practice and daily life. So from that piece alone, it's really incredible. So I loved it. I'm super excited for this next wave of people changing the world one human at a time through breathwork and meditation. I love it.
We're doing it.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you. 444 right now. It's 1444. Anyway,
Yes.
24-hour clock happening here. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. It's so good to see your face again and love chatting about this. And that's it. If anyone wants to sign up, they can go through the link in my bio or send me a DM with any questions. I love talking about this topic. So my doors are always open and really excited for this next wave of people. So thank you so much, Ava, and
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
See you.